first names only. Welcome to the Club Dynamics Seminar. Are you guys ready to have a good time? All right, that was me. Are you ready to have a good time? It's a lot louder over here than it is over here. Let's bring this post over, okay? So on the count of 3, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. All right. Just to make sure you guys are ready for a quick Club Dynamics seminar, we're going to do a little living on a prayer just to get you guys warmed up. And personally, it's really not for you guys, it's just for me because I love John Bon Jovi with pretty much all my heart. He's a legend. Not so much all my heart. Jesus has some of this. Jesus has most of it, but a little bit John Bon Jovi has some of it. All right. Tommy used to work on the docks. The union been on strike. He's down on his luck. It's tough. So tough. Gina works the diner all day. Working for her man. She brings home her pay for love. For love. She says we gotta hold on to what we got. It doesn't make a difference if we make it or not. We got each other, and that's a lot for love. We'll give it a shot. Oh, we're halfway there. Oh, living on a prayer. Take my hand, and we'll make it, I swear. Whoa, living on a prayer. All right, we just did that. You guys are awesome. Thanks for doing that. Just for me, really. That was only there was no. Don't worry, we're recording all these sessions. Yeah, it's on videotape. We got you. All right, here's the deal. This is a Club Leadership Dynamics seminar. And we want to teach you stuff, but the reality of leading a club is that you can't just teach it, you got to kind of see it. And so we sang that song to give you guys a picture, a little bit of the importance of singing songs in club. Why do we sing songs in club? What do you guys think? What are some reasons? Say it louder.
Get excited.
Get some energy. Energy, yeah.
Have some fun.
Have fun.
Bring people together.
Bring people together, common ground. That's great.
Icebreaker?
Break down barriers, yeah. Singing songs in club is important for all those reasons. I think singing a song in club is important because it's energy. It's also leadership. Focus everything on the front.
You'll notice neither Peter or I can sing, yet the song still works.
Yeah.
It doesn't take amazing voices. It takes people up here leading the song.
Yes.
The musicians.
Good club dynamics really are a function of leadership. And so that means if you want people to be excited and have energy in club, you've got to have energy and be excited yourself. We wanted you to sing a song that without any music, without any words on the screen, led by two non-musical people. So we had a lot of energy for it. And that was the point. We wanted you guys to see us lead with energy. Because that's the number one rule in club dynamics. Whether your club has 100 kids or 10 kids in it, you're going to need to lead it with energy. And it's actually a lot easier to lead with energy the club with 100 kids than it is the club with 10. Because when you have 100 kids in a room, energy is just bouncing off the walls. When you have 10 kids in the room, or 25 or 30, you've got to manufacture that energy a little bit.
How many of you have been in a club and you see a group of kids who's just kind of standing there, like mouthing the words or kind of just saying them, not really singing along, and then as soon as you put your arms around them and start swaying and screaming with them, they're right in. And it's that leadership that gets them into that. And it takes the little energy to bounce off the walls because you let them into it.
So one rule that I've heard in my experience is that if you want kids to have energy, you yourself have to have 10 times the energy you want kids to have. You have to be more energetic than where you want people to be. And so that's an important part of what we're happening. And so we're going to talk about some of our things that we do in club to make club great, but we're also going to try to demonstrate those throughout this time. And so even we're setting this up a little bit like a mock club because somebody was asking me, hey, is this a mock club? But we're gonna have some fun.
And if you guys have questions, we're gonna have a time at the end, so like you can write it down or whatever. But we're gonna have a time where you can ask questions and you can pick our brains a little bit. So
yeah, let's an important thing for you guys to know with club is that club starts not when you sing the first song or when you do the first game. Club starts when the first kid shows up at club. And so what are some things that you guys noticed maybe as you were walking into this seminar? What are some things that you noticed about the environment, the feel of what was going on? Go ahead, man. Yeah, Thompson.
He was just like saying stuff that everybody could.
Yeah, definitely.
It was
Very welcoming. Fist bump. Yeah, a lot of fist bumps.
asked me my name and told me your name.
Yeah. We were introducing ourselves.
Yes, that's what.
Yeah, that's important. The tickets, we gave you tickets. We're going to explain a little bit about why you got tickets. But those tickets actually facilitated an interaction when you came into the room, right?
how many of you had a bunch of people walk into a room at club before and you've missed a couple because you've been trying to like say hi to one? But what do the tickets allow me to do? Find out who I haven't gotten to talk to yet, and like who doesn't have a ticket, and then I can go around and make sure I introduce myself, and that way everybody has been greeted when they walked into the room because they all have a ticket now.
Yeah, there's been an interaction with everybody. Should we begin to explain what's going to happen with these tickets?
I would love to. Well, one other thing though, does anybody notice what you heard when you walked in? Music. Why is there music? More energy? Yeah.
Makes it less awkward.
Totally. What if it was dead silent here when you walked in? It's no, and you understand, we don't just sing music. We always have music in the background too. We use it to fill dead space. We use it to be welcoming. And the songs we choose in the background are very important. How many of you have heard that song before? Well, and how many of you get kind of hyped when you hear it? Like, it's a great way when a bunch of people are coming into a room. Like, my kids always run down, and they're always like this as soon as they hear the song, and they're just bouncing in the middle of the club room by themselves as everyone else follows them. And it's totally normal because there's music on. But if they're just standing there by themselves and it's quiet, totally off.
A lot of that, I'm in this room, I'm kind of nervous, I'm uncomfortable. That's most of my life, but anyhow, we managed to get through that. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do right now is get out your tickets. Everybody get out that ticket, pull it out. I'm going to pull out a ticket, and I'm going to begin to read off the numbers that are on the ticket. If the number when I call out a number, if it corresponds to the number that's on your ticket, you need to yell and scream and be really excited. You got that? Rico, can you demonstrate? Does anybody not have a ticket? What? Oh yeah, you guys came in the middle of living on a prayer.
Well, and I appreciate the energy.
Yeah.
You go.
So we got,
And who else?
we got a few people who missed tickets.
We went some Jolly Ranchers or something.
You wish.
You wish.
That's all I
I
did.
think she did get one
I
over
was
there.
worth sorry.
Two over there, okay. All right, so I'm going to call out the numbers on the tickets. If they correspond to the number on your ticket, you're going to scream and yell and be happy. Rufo, can you demonstrate? Wow! Yes! And if they don't correspond to the number on your ticket, you're going to scream and yell and be angry and upset. Rufo, can you demonstrate? Yeah, you could even like elbow or kick somebody right next to you. That's what I do. All right, 3, 0, 8, 7, 9. It's your lucky day, because you get your very own Sodoko former camp t-shirt. Yeah, you should all be jealous. We'll do some more raffles and maybe you'll get a chance to win. I want to talk briefly about, so you've already gotten to see a little bit of how we use the raffle tickets to function as a way to introduce ourselves to people, as a way to greet people. That's a great job. You can give vision to a campaigner kid. Hey, can you do this as people are coming into the club? But you need to explain, hey, this is what we want you to do, is to make sure you talk to those people. Don't just say, here's your ticket, and if you don't know the person, walk awkwardly away. Here's your ticket and introduce yourself. Here's your, here, get a ticket and be happy to see that person. Because it's a shame when a kid walks into our club and is at club, and then they go home and they say, nobody talked to me the whole night. I was there and nobody cared that I was even in club. And that's a shame. But another reason that we do tickets, or that we do that raffle in my club, because for a number of years, currently, for the last 2 years, I've had a really great team that I've gotten to lead with, but there have been times when it's been me, my wife, and maybe a guy playing guitar. And we're doing club, we're doing skits and mixers and minutes and all this stuff, and there's a lot of things, moving parts to handle in those transitions, where maybe we've done a minutes where it's really messy and stuff is all over the place, and it's going to take a little bit of time to clean up. And I don't want kids to just be sitting watching me and my wife clean up this messy skit that we've just done for about 5 minutes while that all goes on. So what I do with the raffle tickets is I explain, okay, I grab a campaigner kid and I say, hey, when this goes on, I need you to help clean it up. So while they're cleaning up, I pull out the tickets, explain what's going on with the tickets, and I run through the tickets, and then give kids actually a much lamer price than an home camp t-shirt. Something from like a dollar store, or a box of candy or something, like a little thing of candy. Something where this is Josh. He's in my club. He's one of my campaigner guys, and he is totally awesome. So he sees all this stuff happen on a regular basis. But the raffle functions as a transition between the minutes or the games. Whenever there's going to be downtime and kids are just going to be sitting waiting for what's next to happen, rather than having them sit silently and begin to be distracted and have their attention go all over the club room and back to their cell phones and Twitter and all that stuff, we have them pull out their tickets and yell mindlessly to numbers that I'm yelling out, and we give them a prize. So that's what we're doing with that.
Yeah, if you've ever been to camp, they have the benefits of having the different curtains, and so they do a messy game, they just close a curtain, and then they can move right on to the next thing. But in club, we don't have that benefit unless you do it in the auditorium, which maybe you do. But we don't have that benefit of just like hiding it and moving on. So we have to start thinking creatively about how are we going to fill that space so it feels like there's something planned here that is keeping the kids involved and gets us to the next spot. So when they look, all of a sudden it's clean and they weren't even paying attention to that campaigner kid, to that volunteer leader who was cleaning it up, because that's not where we want their focus. We always want their focus, again, to be on the leaders who are leading the club, not these people who are cleaning it all up in the front. It's the leaders leading the way and guiding the kids. And if we lose that attention, if they get distracted, then it takes that effort to bring it all back in again, and that's not it.
You want to talk about minutes, mixers, and just running games in general?
Sure. So I love running lots of mixers. I know different people have different opinions. I have really competitive kids, and so they love running mixers. And so we'll do 3 of them in club. Most people will do 1 or maybe 2. We just do a lot because our kids really like to do that. But there are certain things that if you do a lot of mixers, if you do multiple minutes or games or anything like that, even if you only do 1, you can still end up with a couple of issues. If you do one of the big things you get is a lot of times you get a mess. Have any of you, and we thought about doing this, but we didn't want to clean it up. Have you ever done the snowball fight? So you get 2 reams of paper, toss them different sides, split the room in half. You put on a strobe light or something, and you have them crumple up the paper, and you throw it back and forth. Whatever side is more at the end, when the lights come back on, loses whoever is more. Have you ever done that one? And you can do it with lots of different things. Sometimes you shoot war. Yes, you can shoot Q-tips back and forth. Yeah, there's lots of different things. But at the end of that, have you ever then tried to give a club talk or announcements, and kids are pegging things at each other? It's the worst, right? And every time guys, I'm like, I'm gonna kick you, and they don't usually respond well to that. But so one of the things that I've learned and I've been taught is the great thing is at the end of it you have that leader. Almost every team has that leader that just loves to be the goofy, the attention, doesn't mind anything happening to him. He's always the guy who gets stuff happening to him, there's the ice cream in the face or in a skin or something like that. Most teams have that person. I know Mark Pillis back there is definitely that person, and definitely was when I led him through college. But everybody has that. So what we do is we have that person. My leader's name is Dan Weinberger. He'll come up front and go, hey guys, whoever can hit me from the furthest distance, or whoever team hits me the most with your paper wins. So everyone's picking up their things and just chucking them at the front. What they don't realize is they're cleaning up for us. They just threw all the paper from amongst themselves, and now it's in a neat little pile in the front. And then our leaders just sweep it away as we do a rap or something, or they sweep it away as the band comes up to sing. And they don't realize, but now there's no distraction out there. It's a very simple way to eliminate that distraction and allow us to continue with the flow of where we're put to go. And that's what I want to talk to you guys a little bit now, is the flow of club. This is one of the things one of the reasons I love club. I love some psychology stuff. My wife is a psychologist. And I love the way that Young Life thinks through the details and the background stuff that goes on in club. And when we start club, what is our initial goal when people walk through the door? We get them from where they're standing on the first floor and they come into the basement, or wherever they're standing. We get them from that they're mumbling amongst each other. And what is our first goal when they get down to the basement? Somebody tell me, what are we trying to do with their energy? What are we doing? We're trying to get the energy where? High. We don't want them walking in and staying at the same level. That doesn't make any sense. That's not how we do clubs. It doesn't break down those barriers that we talked about earlier. That's why we have the loud music. That's why we did all that stuff. So when we try to get kids, we're trying to get them up, right? We're trying to get to this point. But are we trying to stay there? If we're up at this point and we try to do the club talk, what happens? Distractions. Nobody meets Jesus. Stuff like that. So
they don't hear about Jesus because they're too busy screaming.
Exactly. So when you're playing these things, we're really good in Young Life about getting energy levels up. And that's great. But what we have to learn to do is to get it back down, and so that we have their attention when it comes time for the talk. And you'll notice in club, at camp or something, they're really good about this. The way that they amp it up, the song choices are so important. And your song choices, the first one you're going to do, Living on Prayer, everyone's screaming, everyone's going nuts. But you notice, they start going down after that, the energy level. We don't stay up there and sing something like Call Me Maybe right after, where everyone's going crazy again. We start bringing the level down. And you'll notice that when we do a mixer, the next thing is, I call it an upfront game, other people call it minutes. where then everyone's sitting, but there are a few people up front. And now you've got a couple people engaged, everyone else watching, but now they're not really screaming as much. And the energy level's coming down. And then after that, you might have the run-on, where everyone's watching two leaders up front. And then after that, you might show a funny video, and then a slow song, and then the announcements, and then the talk. And all of a sudden, you've gone from this, turn it back down to this. And if you don't think through those details, you lose their attention, and when it comes time to present the gospel to them, they're not engaged. And the whole point of the night is to lead them to this point. We want them coming back. So we want to have that energy level. But if we stay there, the club doesn't work. And it's kind of pointless for why we do it. So when we think through the different things, it doesn't have to be that order of what we do, but you have to try to think through that little transition.
You got it, and really you want energy to be at a point where people are ready to hear, ready to listen. And songs do that better than almost anything I've seen. I want to say something real quick about running minutes and mixers in club. Just a practical tip. As I've seen younger leaders that have come through my area lead any sort of game, yeah, right, Rico, you're one of them. But one thing I see sometimes as people get up front, they have a very funny kind of sell of like, I'm a character, I'm going to do this, I want you to do this game. But kids, they'll sell the game, but kids won't actually know what the game is. So if you're running any sort of game, say it's the Q-tip war, and maybe you come out and you're some character where you're hunting a person with a blow dart gun or something. You know, I'm just thinking on my feet how you could sell that. And you have that character, and then you give everybody straws and you give everybody Q-tips, and you say, okay, kids are still looking, okay, what do I do? What's the competition? And so you need to explain, okay, this side of the room versus this side of the room, you guys are going to shoot each other with the Q-tips. The side with the most Q-tips on it loses, and the side with the least Q-tips on it wins. And you've got to explain, be sure you're explaining the point and what you're doing and how you want kids to do it. And as you think through your games and your minutes, you need to also think through, okay, how am I going to tell kids what they need to do so they actually accomplish that? And that's something, as somebody who's been running a club for about 14 years, I don't think often to tell my leaders who are leading a club to do, or how to, because I just have done that naturally for so long. But I'll see on a number of occasions somebody being like, the game will be told, they'll be like, okay, go, and kids will be like standing around, what do we do? Right? What do you want us to do right now? Casey I think this is not mine.
Oh, not?
Yeah. I think that's Papadonna's.
Oh, sorry.
Anyhow.
But honestly, one thing to that, when you get to explain it to kids, it gives you another opportunity to lead your kids. And so they're following you again, because if there's this chaos, and if you're not out there, like, you might just be handing things out, and kids are really confused with what's going on, that opportunity, again, to bring their attention and to control where you're going with it. Because the more opportunities you get to lead, the more they'll follow you. And that way we can take them where to the feet of Jesus at the end of the night.
And also when you're leading, lead from up front in the club room. Try to minimize the number of times you have people in the back leading, getting everybody's attention. If Dan's in the back yelling, hey, this is what you need to do, and everybody's looking back there, you're minimized. You want to, in some sense, train kids to be looking up front for direction and to know what's going to happen. So at the end of the night, when one of you or one of your co-leaders stands up in front of the kids to talk about Jesus, they're already like, yeah, this is where, of course we're going to look up front and talk, of course I'm going to listen when somebody stands up front and is talking. You want to set that precedent and just keep getting kids in that routine where they're looking at. And I think a lot of times in clubs and homes we can want to do things from all different kinds of angles because we want to keep things going led from the front. All right, we're going to do another raffle. Get your tickets out. Get your tickets out. Get your tickets out.
We're going to give away this Philly shirt.
Yeah, we're going to give away Pound It Down this Philly shirt. 3! Yeah! 0! Yeah! 0! Yeah! 9! 0! Yeah! 3! Come on! You're a winner. All right. I'm trying to find one that's probably roughly your size. I think this is it. So, congratulations. Pete, what's your name? Everybody, give it a loud cheer for Rachel. Well, let me. This is what we're talking about, distractions. I want to say something too, real quick about humor in club. I think one thing that is one of a great quality, a great trait of Young Life throughout its history is Young Life's humor. And I think that's something that for a lot, I know for me personally, I was drawn to Young Life because the guys who were in my club were some of the funniest people who I ever met. Little did I know that they were actually some of the best camp program directors that I had ever seen, and they had just happened to be leading in club together at the time. And so when I was a volunteer leader, and I was trying to do skits like they did, and I couldn't get the quick banter, witty banter to happen so naturally as they did. But humor is one of our great traits, and I want to talk about that because I want to encourage you guys to use humor. I think we use humor in minutes of the upfront games. We try to create games that are going to put kids in situations where they're doing something that's unexpected, maybe a little bit uncomfortable or just awkward, or it's going to be funny, and they're going to think, I can't believe we're doing this, and this is funny, and we're going to laugh at ourselves in that sense. But I also want to talk about run-ons, and run-ons are what we talk about. It's kind of like the skits, but that's what I grew up calling them. The characters that we do when we come up front. And I think it's really important that we think through how we're doing those. And I want to encourage you guys, as you guys plan and think through doing a run-on in your club, if you're doing a character, try to think through for each time you come out, what is like our one joke that we're going to have that this is going to be funny, and then build that run-on, like, okay, this is going to be the punchline to this, to this character. The run-on this morning, the punchline was the fake seminars. And Sleepin' Fets are some of the funniest people in Young Life right now. So they've got joke after joke that goes on there. But in your club run-on, you really don't want your Young Life club to go longer than 55. I'd say 55 minutes is about as long as you want that thing to go from the first song to the end of the talk. And so if you put a 15-minute run-on in the middle of that thing, because you're trying to tell 5 different jokes in that, you're going to eat up a lot of time, and kids are just going to be sitting there waiting for the next part of the joke. So think one joke, have your lines. I think it's good. A classic thing we do in Young Life is have lines that are repeatable, maybe a little rhythm, that goes to them, that kids kind of know when you come out, that first line, this is what it's going to be, and it's going to be funny. I also think with your humor, so much of the world's humor today is to point at people who are kind of, and then kick them while they're down and laugh at them. Like, that's sort of how the world's humor works today. I think it's important that we point at ourselves and laugh at ourselves. You know, and I think there's something about that that is refreshing. And it, you know, like, if there is humor where you're pointing at somebody else and, you know, kind of joking them, make sure you know that person. Like today, in clubs like Sloop and Fets, they made fun of a whole handful of us on staff, but we know them, and they know us, and we have relationships with them. And so there's, you know, don't make fun of a kid in your club because people make fun of him and he's an easy target. You know, like, don't do that. That's not good humor. And that, you know, you don't want to add to that in terms of that. And I'd also say, think through the jokes that you're referencing in our culture. I think a lot of times we look at funny things that our culture thinks is funny, and we kind of reference them in our humor. And I'd say be really careful with that. If you're referencing a joke from an R-rated movie, you want to think through, why am I doing that? Like, why is that joke funny in that R-rated movie? And from when I'm standing up front in club, where somebody's gonna talk about Christ, share Christ with kids, do I want kids to be playing through their mind that R-rated movie, and the language and the things that are up there? So think through that too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say I have the same for music. And if you think about songs, a lot of times as young kids, we look through songs to make sure there's no curse words, or that we can change the word, and then we can do the song. But a lot of times, watch the music video. Like, what do kids associate with that song? Now, personally, this is just me. I don't play any Miley Cyrus anymore. Like, I won't even do Party USA because of what she's like representing out there, and because of what people think Miley Cyrus in the middle of my club. What they're thinking is not where I want their heads to go, and so I don't do Miley Cyrus anymore. Think through, like, what is the video doing? What are the subtleties of the song that they're trying to say? And it changes the way we start looking at music, because it's going to send certain messages to our kids. And if we're trying to lead them to the foot of the cross, we don't have to insert our own bumps. They brought their own. It's not our job to make it hard to get there. We're supposed to move smoothly there. We don't want any of those distractions popping up, whether it's in humor or in music.
All right.
Humor, one other thing about humor, when it comes to the club talk, obviously, we're going to talk more about the club talk a little bit, but humor is the same way, and it goes right along with this idea of controlling our club. How many times have you seen, like last night, Sloop, great example, how funny was his intro story, and about getting stuck in the snow, and we're all dying up there and stuff, and then somehow it was like a blink of an eye, we were all enraptured with what he was talking about, and he was talking about the gospel. And he did that same thing where he brought us in and he hooked us, and he brought us right back down so that we were ready to hear about Jesus. And he uses humor and he uses energy with the way he talks and the energy, the way he controls the stage. It's the same thing with all of club and with our club talks. We want to bring kids in, and then we want to bring them right down to where we have their attention. So let's take advantage of it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point with club talks. You want to have that same spike in energy. You don't want your club talk to be kind of a monotone flat. You know, when I was in high school, I had this happen to me. And it kind of relates to this time when Jesus did this thing. It was awesome. Aren't we all kind of like that guy? Let's pray and go to McDonald's. But we can do that. And I get it, because there is something nerve-wracking about standing in front of a room full of high school kids or middle school kids or a room full of anybody. There's a reason why public speaking is the #1 most common fear that people have.
Spiders are second.
Spiders are second. Thanks, Dan. Hey, I want you guys, just to kind of break things up a little bit, I want you guys to turn to 2 or 3 people nearby you and just say something, share really quick. You know, what was your first Young Life or Wildlife Club experience? What do you remember about it? If you haven't had a first Young Life Club experience, or then you can just kind of, so just share amongst yourselves. Ready, go. Alright, so one of the things I do in my club when I want to get attention is I yell you yell a wop and boo. Alright, you try that wop and boo. Alright, so if I yell a wop and boo, you yell a wop and boo. A wop and boo up! Wop and boo! Perfect. See? Great. And so my kids don't, I yell that, I need their attention, and they all yell back, and then they're boo, back up to the front. Okay, so all right, who's got a really funny one that they want to share? Or somebody in your group who shared a funny one who doesn't want to share it, but you want to share a story? And who's got one? Who's got a good one? All right, go, Brett.
My first Young Life Club that I went to, I was called up to participate in minutes. The house that we had filled out was doing renovations. And so they had this new, unused, clean toilet, which they proceeded to plug the bottom of, fill with Mountain Dew, and dropped in baby roots. And me and 2 other gentlemen had to go bobbing for baby roots in this toilet for Mountain Dew. And every time I came up, I had slightly longer hair, I would just like spin my head trying to get it out of my eyes so that I could see where I was supposed to go. And I soaked the crowd and their flat screen TV and all the tape up.
Awesome. Well done. Well, how'd that make you feel? Did you want to come back? Awesome. You love it.
There was no missing out.
Yeah, you had to pick the right kids for that. All right, who else? Give me some more first experiences.
My friend Justin right here went to club the first time they put a tennis ball in a stocking on his head, and he had to dance around with that and try to spin it around.
Awesome. Yeah, have you ever worn a stocking on your head before?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You felt right at home. You weren't doing this long.
It's actually an armed robbery, but we're not gonna. He's got a shady past.
Okay, we don't. All right, what else we got? Give me one more. Go ahead.
My first club was a Fear Factor club.
Oh.
And
Who invited you?
I don't even remember. But I had to eat pickle juice and and there was fish involved. And it was, yeah, I came home and my mom was like, "Why do you smell like?" Well, funny story.
Awesome, awesome. My first young life club experience, I was a sophomore in high school, and I've grown by me. So I went, and I don't know if my leader was a genius or stupid, but he had the guys go every other in a line, and then we did the toothpick thing, where you get a lifesaver, and you have to pass from toothpick to toothpick when the lifesaver's in your mouth. And then he had us go guy, girl, and I loved it. I was like, I'm coming back. But only to know that the girl who was in front of me, which is the girl I really enjoyed it. The girl behind me is not my wife. So that was just fun. And the girl in front is her best friend. So. Don't tell you.
Yeah, making magic happen. 1941.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So my first Young Life Club experience. I went to Young Life Club not because somebody invited me, but because my parents made me. I'd been arrested towards the end of my 10th grade year, and part of my punishment once I was ungrounded from like a month-long grounding was that I would have to go to Young Life. And at that point, the club was kind of done for the school year, so it wasn't until my junior year that I had a Young Life Club to go to. But I remember that was part of the punishment. I felt pretty bad about it because I'd been brought home at 2 in the morning to my parents' front porch in handcuffs and very drunk. So that was a bad situation. But I went to club, and I didn't really know anybody. A kid literally walked by a group of kids I was standing in. It was like, "Hey, club's at my house. Young Life's at my house tonight. You guys should come." I didn't say anything to that kid like, "Yeah, I'll go. Where's it?" I'm like, "Okay, I kind of know where you live. I'll go find this place. I'll find your house." And I drive around his neighborhood, and eventually I see a house with a whole crew of kids standing out in front of it. And I walk in, and I really don't know many of the kids who are there. There are kids who are cooler than I was in high school, kids from a different social group, but I showed up. The one thing I remember most about that night, I remember my Young Life leader, Joe Marks, coming up to me and saying, "What is your name? I haven't met you before. What's your name?" And I think there's something that's really important about that. And I know that some of you guys noticed as you came in, most of you I've never met before. But I was intentional to ask you guys, "Hey, what's your name?" And I think there's something really powerful in that. When we go to kids and we say, "Hey, what's your name? Who are you? I want to know you." And club isn't just a fun program. It's not a fun event that we run so kids will hear about Jesus. It's also a place where we begin to invite kids in to relationship. And we share that with kids. And for me, my Young Life leader, Joe, coming up and saying, "What is your name?" was the beginning of a lifelong relationship and friendship. Joe spoke and gave the homily at my wedding. Joe is the guy that I call up when I need advice about life or young life stuff. He's somebody that I am still friends with to this day. And that's part of what we do in Young Life Club. Is it's not just, "Hey, this is high energy, high excitement." We are trying to set an environment where we are inviting kids in to belong to something. We are modeling the love and relationship that we want with them is the love and the relationship that Christ has for them and desires to be in with them. And so that is what we are trying to do. And I'm going to just to remind you guys of the purpose of Young Life Club, I'm going to look at Luke chapter 5 in the calling of Levi. It's familiar. I think maybe even somebody's already talked about this. After this, Jesus went out and saw a tax collector by the name of Levi sitting at his tax booth. "Follow me," Jesus said to him. And Levi got up and left everything and followed him. You know, Jesus sees this guy, and we don't know much of the backstory of Levi other than he's a tax collector. And Jesus, this religious teacher, is gaining all kinds of popularity, walks up to him and says, "Follow me." He invites Levi in to relationship. He says, "Hey, Levi, follow me." And Levi's response, and I love this, Levi just begins to follow Jesus. And it says, "Then Levi held a great banquet for Jesus at his house, and a large crowd of tax collectors and others were eating with them. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, who belonged to their sect, complained to his disciples, 'Why do you eat and drink with tax collectors and sinners?'" You know, I love that picture. That the outflow of this guy Levi, who's a total wreck, by the way. You know, his life is by no means together, by no means cleaned up. And Jesus, the God of the universe, walks up to his tax booth and says, "Hey, follow me." And he does. And he gets up. The response, what he does is he throws a huge party with all his friends so that he can get to know, so that his friends can get to know Jesus and hear about him and experience it. And then there's this group of religious people who don't get what's going on, who don't get Jesus and what he's about. They don't get the kingdom that Fetz was just talking about. The kingdom that Jesus is bringing into the world is not just for the good people, but it's for the tax collectors and the others, the sinners. And that's what Jesus says. He says, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance." And that's a picture. It's a great picture of what we're trying to do in Club. Invite kids in to relationship. And not just, you know, the successful, the good-looking, the kids that have got their acts together, but the broken, the lonely, the sick, the sinners. We're inviting them in so they can hear about Jesus, so that they can be known and be loved, and begin to experience the full life that Christ has to offer them. And that's what we're doing at Club. And I want to remind you guys of that. And that's the point of all the energy that we try to dictate, that we try to send out. That's what we're hoping you guys do. And that's why we're excited about this weekend in general. Because we know that you guys represent hundreds, maybe thousands of kids just in this room by the relationships that you are building with them. And I think there is something special, because there's something special even when you build a relationship with a kid and they never make it to Young Life Club. There is value in that, because you are going to them and you're communicating, you're getting to know them, you're building a relationship with them, communicating that they have value. Just as Christ went to Levi. So thanks for coming. We want to now open the floor up for you guys to ask us some questions, maybe specific to your own club or your own ministry. So any questions that you guys have about things we're doing, or maybe even things we've talked about and didn't explain well enough? 'Cause I don't. I mean, not that I would ever do that. Not explain something well.
You all, I mean, I've obviously been around a little while, so we're older than most of the folks here, but awesome stuff today. Thank you. You talk a little bit about choice of venue for club, the physical realities of having to choose where you go and what you do, and what kind of venues work and what don't.
I think.
Or if there's no.
You always want to think neutral turf. I think contact work, we're going onto kids' ground, kids' turf. I'm meeting them where they're at. I think clubs should be a neutral playing field, where it's not necessarily their turf, but it's not asking them to leave their comfort zone. So that is one of my philosophies, and for that reason, in my area, I really encourage that our clubs are not in churches, because a church will lose that sense, that feeling of neutral turf, where on a week in, week out, we're inviting them to leave their comfort zone and come on to kind of our ground. We want to meet them in the middle at the club.
And that makes our campaigners' job so much harder too. It's so much easier for them to invite them to a friend's house than it is to invite them to a church where we're doing something. Now, churches can be tempting because some of them have like great rec rooms or great spaces that we can like run club, and they've already got a sound system and like it's perfect. They've got a basketball hoop we can hang out. But we have to understand, like, this isn't about the fun or the convenience for us. It's for them. Now, I will say Gloucester, I know Washington Township has their club in a church. The big church is also in a former industrial park that looks nothing like a church. And like people walk in and have no idea it is a church because it looks like an industrial park. And the church has designed it that way because they want people to be on their church. So like that's like totally, it's a different scenario. So I just want to toss it out there to Gloucester.
Yeah, and I think that's valid. Also, if you're having a club that is 75, 100 plus, you begin to get to a level where a friend's home,
you only have so much
is impractical. And so a church is often an easier find. But I would encourage you guys to, and you have to know your community, know your culture. I think it does depend on the church and even the kids in the situation. But one of our clubs now that is routinely 75, 100 kids in our area, they are in essentially I'm trying to think, it's a township building.
Like a rec center?
It's not even a rec center. It's like a equipment barn that has, it's used, but they just found it, and it's not, it's a big barn. It doesn't really have much in the way of heat, but you get 100 kids in there, and it gets pretty hot quick. So that, think outside the box, look for places that maybe aren't typically used to have meetings with people in that, for people, because they're not that nice of facilities. But high school kids, you get 100 of them in a room, they'll have fun just about anywhere.
So we've run this issue in my area recently as well, and it's been a lot of fun to brainstorm different ways that we can add space. So one of the ideas is like we meet in a barn for one of them. We don't quite fit in there, so we can open the barn doors and just bought like a $200 tent, and that goes just like right outside the doors. And so you still got the heat and everything, but then like the band can be up there in the front, like that's where the talk can come from. So it doesn't take away space, and it opens up space for kids in the barn. And so just being creative with open up barn doors, put a tent is not something that normally comes to mind. We start, what space can we use? Where can we go? Oh, the rec center, oh, the church will have space. But like get creative with what you've got. We've also used garages, like a 3-car garage, and you just clear it out, get the cars out of there, and all of a sudden it becomes a perfect club room. That's much larger than the spaces. So just thinking outside the box is the way to go.
Yeah.
In the back.
Kind of along those lines, can you give like some best practices in working with host families, especially as you like develop programs, you get into a new house, like setting up, how much do we communicate with the family? You know, obviously, hopefully a lot, since they're hosting you, but what have you found that are really good practices in making that venue, especially at home, welcome again to bring young life back?
One of the things that we do is we invite certain campaigner kids to come very early with us. Like we'll communicate, whether it's email or text or phone, and we'll talk to them. We set up a schedule at the beginning of every semester of who's hosting it when. But our campaigner kids come early and they take out their phones and they take pictures of the room that we're using. So they know where every little lamp goes back in place. They know where every little photo frame hops back up. And then they lift everything and they completely gut the room and go hide it in a space that they've told us we can hide it. Whether it's put everything in the dining room, get out of the living room, or take it out of the basement and put it in these closets. And then when everyone's done after club, we have a team of kids who help us. And they pull out their phones, look at the pictures, and they put everything exactly where it went. And then we vacuum every time, because if it wasn't vacuumed before, it now also looks a lot better than when we got there. So kind of the idea is leave it better than it was when we got there, and that way we're invited back. And so we take it very seriously how we do that. And a lot of times, the second time we have club there, they invite us over for dinner beforehand because they were so pleased with what happened the last time they hosted. So we haven't had anybody who's asked us not to come back, except for Eric Williams. No, his nest has not come back, but we did put holes in his wall.
And I think know the home that you're going to be in. If you're going to be in a living room versus a semi-finished basement in a home, select your minutes and mixers, your skits accordingly.
But always put something down on the floor.
Yeah. And even if you're on a concrete floor, still put stuff down on the floor, because that's going to make it easier for you to clean up, and it still speaks to the fact that you care about the people's home that you're in. And so the Mountain Dew and the toilet skit is probably not it's not really a great living room skit. And that, I will say, that was before I moved to Sodelco, and there were some things like, hey, let's not do that in the living room because we're ruining people's houses. Fortunately, that guy was a professional painter and could paint his house. Yeah.
I was going to say something about messy skits too. Paul and I did Young Life for a number of years, and we kind of threw them out the window. Just because we felt like more than messing someone's house up and being fearful of them inviting us back, was trashing kids and then telling them about the gospel. It didn't line up. And so we got a little trouble with that philosophically, and so we just kind of stopped doing them. And it solved a lot of problems, both emotionally with some of the kids that you may thought you could have done some things with and you shouldn't have, and for the people's houses that you went to. So, it just depends. I mean, you win people. What is it? You win
People with, you win them too.
You win them too. So you have to be real careful and be mature about how you do that. Because it's fun and energy is great, but if you trash somebody, and then I loved living in a small community. We still live there, and the best press we had was going from clubhouse to clubhouse to clubhouse, different people's houses. We went to multi-million-dollar houses and went to trailer parks. Okay, and so we went from place to place to place, and moms would talk, and dads would talk. What is this thing? And then they would say, look at my house, and this is what we did. And that was the best press we had. We left that place, and Christ was there. We were in homes where people didn't know anything about Christ. Absolutely nothing. And sometimes they were the best houses, because guess what? They were the party houses. Nobody knew how to get there. It's just kind of funny how things work out. But some of those houses became the Christ houses, But be real careful with those messy skits.
Yeah,
I don't want to be trashing people.
I don't do messy skits because it just doesn't work in any of our houses that we host club in. But if you do them, if you can work that out philosophically, which some of you I'm sure do, pick the right kids because you know kids will never come back if you put them in that skit. And I do not put first-timers in missing skips. Like when I was in college and all that, I never put a first-timer up there. Because, well actually, I don't because I did once. And he never came back. Because you don't, if you don't have that relationship with them where you know that like, oh, Johnny McGinley's going to be great up there. Like if I can put him up there, like no problem. Like if you don't have a relationship, then like don't do it. Because then you're hurting them as you're walking them to the cross.
Yeah, if you see your club kids pointing out a kid, like, hey, this kid, and you see on that kid's face they don't want to go up, don't call them up. You know, that's just a simple like, hey, that's not we don't want to call that person up.
One thing that I also learned from that is pick your kids before you do it. A lot of times we stand up there and we're like, who wants to, or like, how about you, and like everyone's trying to point at somebody. Like go up there with the list, like these are the kids, like be intentional about it. You're thinking through this again, the details. We don't just like throw together a club. It's all these details. So who are you going to put in that for what reason? And that way when you get up there, you're not swayed by the, oh, this kid put this kid, and everyone's like cheering for his name, and you're like, well, if I don't choose him, everyone's going to like, oh, boo, to the kid who's coming out. Come up and like read off names. Like, don't even pretend like you're asking for volunteers. Like, you can just read off names and be like, I need this person, that person. Join me up here.
Was there another question I thought?
Yeah.
Right there.
In Lehigh Valley, we have a campaigner group and we haven't had a club yet. So for the first club, how do we handle our campaigner kids? Like, how are they going to think of the club? Like, what should we tell them to do? Because they've never even seen a club. So bringing their friends, they don't really know what to tell their friends to expect or how to help out. You know what I mean?
I would recommend that you take them to see a club. I know Lehigh Valley, you're probably about an hour from the nearest club. Just a heads up. And so you should try to take them to see a club. Another thing I'd also recommend is having a campaigner night where you actually practice and run through a club, singing songs.
If your campaigner kids know the songs, you don't necessarily need all the leaders who are leading out there. Like if your campaigner kids are getting their friends riled up, they just lead from the front, because then they're leading from the crowd.
Yeah. That way they're prepared.
I would say I've never started a club without showing my campaigner kids somebody else's club. And also last January, I took 3 guys to Washington Township High School Club, 45 minutes away. I showed them that club. Those 3 guys all met the Lord the weekend after that. At our winter weekend, and the weekend after that we had our first club, and there were 72 kids there because of these 3 guys. Because they saw a club, they bought in, then they saw Jesus, and then they were like, this is it. And now like they're all doing work this weekend. And so like when they see it and they can catch that vision and understand why you do it, like you've got kids, like if they're campaigner kids, most likely a lot of them already know Jesus. Like if they love him, they want their friends to see it. Show them the way to do it, and so show them the club. Here.
I have 2 questions real quick. First, do you guys do raffle tickets every week?
I do most every week. There's sometimes where, by the flow of club, we can get away without doing it. And so there's times.
Do you not think that it gets old?
Josh, does it get old?
No.
Part of it is a lot of your gifts sometimes. Like if they're funny ones, like Dollar Tree ones. I know some people do like. For leaders, does anybody here do the Box of Wonders?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but you think that's the same idea with kids, and so like they don't know what's in this box, all right? And then you just hold it up and they reach in, and that's how they get their raffle prize. So every week it's a new thing that's coming out, and you could have a dollar store thing in there, and then you could have a donut T-shirt. And you know what I mean? And so they're always like, what am I going to get? And there's an element of surprise to that, because that's what we do. Is we surprise and we have fun, and so find a way to make it new. Instead of the same one every week, we're giving out $5 gift card to Chick-fil-A. Like instead of that, like mix it up. And it's better than anything you give out. Yeah. I love my kids.
Yeah.
And
I'm really cheap. I'm okay with it.
I can vouch for that.
What was your second?
How do you come up with new minute ideas? I feel like a lot of people just exhaust your own ideas and like figure out the same minute.
Do you have the human resource guy?
I have like 300
Right.
lists, but I feel like you've like gone through all the good ones.
Yeah, so one of the things, and this is just lets me make another point. When I plan club, everything's in an Excel document, so that I know the last time I did that game. So like you can redo games, that's perfectly okay. Not the same semester, maybe not the same year, but like if you've been leading the club for a couple of years, so like even right where I am now, I'm at my 1 year anniversary of club at this school from last winter. And so now it's okay to start working in a game that kids love, and you know that. But like I have Excel documents that show me when's the last time I did this. And so I mean, in that I've had 24 clubs in the last year. I mean, there are probably 150 different minutes in there. And so maybe the good ones are all exhausted, and you can try a new one. But also bring your kids in on that. Like when I drove up here with my worker kids, they all have the human resource guide out. If you don't know what that is, Google it. Human resource guide, Young Life. You'll find it everywhere online. It's different areas that posted it. It's on the staff resource website, which you guys have access to as volunteers. It's like 300 pages long. It's excellent. But so keeping track of what you've done is important. And also, my kids help me choose, because there are games I'll get, I go, no. And they look at me and go, this would be awesome. I go, really? And they're like, yeah. Like, okay, you know your friends better than I do. And so like my kids went through the human resource guide driving up here on the way from South Jersey, and then just like writing them all down, and then yelling them out the car, and everyone's going, that's awesome, that sucks. Like, so that's how we let our kids, and then our kids take ownership of those games. So when they do it, they're like, we picked this one, like, but they're like, oh, this is awesome, everyone, this is gonna be amazing. Like, so you let your kids know.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, can you speak on that time where kids are showing up to the club hasn't started yet, and tips how you want to run that environment, things you want to be doing, things you don't want to be doing?
I think it's best if you can keep your kids out of the club room, because then it creates a hard start to club. At my club, for a long, we don't always do that. And part of that is for a long time we were in a committee family's house, and the neighbor, we were hanging out outside, and the neighbor came and begged us not to be outside because it was too stressful for her to see. Yeah, it was.
My kids get hit by, or almost get hit by cars all the time because they're playing frisbee out front before it. So I understand the stress.
Well, it was really the neighbor and her. But as a way to kind of honor this neighbor, and we just said, okay, we're gonna try to create that outside environment. Inside, it's a little harder because kids can pocket into corners and things like that, and it's harder to work around. So I'd say keep them outside.
Bring that to that. One of the things that we've been able to do at Solanco is my wife is actually able to go. She actually goes and picks up a couple of our campaigner girls from school, and so every Tuesday we have just a couple kids over and we feed them, and then we bring them, or they follow us straight to club if they're not picking anyone else up, and they help us set up. And as soon as somebody gets there, whether it's someone new or someone who's been there before, okay, you guys, we'll keep setting up, you go outside and you go be with those people, so it's not just, oh, that one new person whose parents want them to come and they got there wicked early, now they're the only ones out there. So that's a good time for at least us. We utilize our campaign to say, hey, you're going to go and you're going to meet these people, and you're going to forget about yourself for the next 4 hours, you're going to make sure that everyone else is having a great time.
Yeah, so that's why we have kids come help us set up too, is that our campaigner kids are then there when friends and their classmates start showing up. The hard start, I love that as well. So where we divide it, and so even if we have a basement that we use, which is an L, 2 open rooms, but we just bought a shower curtain, and we can just like one of the ones that like collapses and stuff, and you just put it in between, and put a shower curtain on. So kids, there's just an element of mystery. They know there's nothing in there. Like one time though, when I was in high school, we ran in and there were donuts hanging from the ceiling, and I was like, "What?" So every week after that, when it was closed off, I was like trying to see if there's anything in there. But like, there's just this element of surprise when you close it off. And so what we do when we do our intro song is we start it really, really loud. And I always pick a song. We do the same song every club as an intro for the entire semester, and it always has a build up to it. And so if Wake Me Up is the song we did this past semester, and it always has a point where the beat drops. And when the beat drops, curtain flies open, door flies open, leaders are up there waiting like to send kids down. We've already grouped them all by the door, so they're like knocking on walls, and they're trying to get down. And when the beat drops, door bursts open, and kids come running down the stairs. There's campaigners high-fiving them, there's leaders high-fiving them, there's leaders to the top, campaigners to the top, corralling them down. And then immediately we take the energy from just standing all the way up here. So as far as our start, Campaigners are upstairs, beat drops, everyone comes downstairs. They can hear